Hi people, very warm welcome to the second session of the productive mechanism. How are you guys doing? I'm Ankana, your master teacher for social sciences at Vedantu, hoping all your bitches are just doing amazing. What's up with you guys? Do tell me in the comment box, okay? Okay guys, so as you know, in the previous session we discussed about what productive mechanism is, what do we mean by production, and what are certain factors that determine production, right? And basically how it affects production. So today we are going to dwell into the depth of each factor. However, we are not going to cover all the factors today itself, but that's what we're going to do. As per the new syllabus, as you know, we the factors for for each and every factor respectively, we are only supposed to cover the meaning and its characteristics, and few things here and there. So today, majorly, we're going to discuss about land and labor, the first two factors of production. Okay, so let's quickly get started. So we'll start with meaning of land. What do we mean by land? Okay, so if you talk about land, it's in general, if we say literally, okay, if I say literally what does land mean, what would you say? You would say, ma'am, the surface of the earth. Land is nothing else but the surface of the earth. But in economical terms, in terms of economics, not economical, I'm sorry, but in terms of economics, it's not that. It's not just the surface of the earth. I think this is what I've explained to you in the previous session also. Land means each and everything that has been given by nature to us, all the natural resources, okay? Everything that is going to be used in terms of like forest, water, mineral, all of this, all the natural resources comprises the land, okay? That will be falling under land because in terms of inputs that we're making. Now, what are the characteristics of land? So, but the very first thing that we understand about land is it's free of cost. Okay, it's a free gift of nature. Obviously, we say that anything that you're getting from nature is coming at zero cost for you. I mean, of course, to access it, you may have to put technology and some cost would go there. However, you're not purchasing it from nature. Nature is giving it to you as a gift, as a free thing to anybody. So these things come free of cost. There is no cost of production when it comes to land. However, we do buy land from people, and this might create a confusion in your head that, ma'am, when I want to set up my enterprise or whenever I'm doing production, I want to buy land to build factory on it or to build my office on it. So now I'm buying land. So it is coming at a certain cost. Then how are you saying it's free? But it's free because the source of it is nature. Humans have claimed it ahead is a different thing, but somebody, whoever claimed it the first time, got it for free, right? He did not pay anything to nature. So what I'm trying to say is that these things, water for that matter, you don't pay for water, and as I said, land is not going to be taken literally as land. It's everything, all the natural resources. So there are few natural resources which we pay for because that becomes a part of the business. However, if you take it from the proper source where it comes from, nature, nature gives it us for free. Okay, so this comes for zero cost. Okay, next is limited in supply. Now the nature of land, the nature of resources is that they're fixed in supply. Okay, there are a lot of non-perishable, there are a lot of renewable resources, but they are still fixed. They're not always in abundance, that no matter how much you keep using it, it will not get over. If we talk about land in particular, it is fixed in two ways, guys. Okay, how is it fixed? One, it cannot its supply cannot be increased. And I'm sorry, I confused it with another point. I'll get to that. I'm saying it is limited in terms of supply, which means any country, for example India, we are in India, the supply of land is going to be always limited. It is not going to increase. The amount of land which is there in India will always remain the same. It will not increase. So we'll always, for that matter, in our entire earth, how much ever amount of land is there, it's going to remain that. It's not going to increase. Okay, then we have primary factor of production. What do we mean by primary factor of production? So this is, land is one of the most basic forms of production, right? I mean, factors of production. Why? Without land, nothing is there. If you remember, we discussed in the previous session as well that this is what all the other factors depend on. If there is no land, where will you work? What will a person plan? What will an entrepreneur plan anything on? Everything is based on land. What will the labor work on? He would need something to work on, right? So everything else is dependent on land. However, it doesn't mean that they're not interdependent. Land also depends on labor. Okay, we'll get to that, but to begin with, all of these things depends on land. It is the base of everything. Everything starts from here, everything begins from here. Okay, not just that, we even get a lot of resources of other factors, of other parts of inputs from land. For example, raw materials, right? The capital is formed by land. Okay, so it becomes a primary factor of production. Then of course it's a passive factor of production, which means it's not actively participating. It cannot do anything on its own. It would need somebody to work on it. We need labor to work on it. We need some capital to enhance it. So it's a passive form of, it's a passive factor of production. Then it is permanent. It is non-perishable and indestructible. We cannot destroy it. We cannot destruct it. Land is there. Land will always be there. Okay, it's permanent, unlike the rest of the factors. So what do I mean by this? So bacha, capital that we put in, okay, and I told you, and we'll come to that in the next session. We're not going to discuss capital today, but I quickly want to pick this point and tell you. Capital in terms of economics is not just money, which literally means money, right? But in terms of economics, just like land, how land means all of the natural resources, capital means any kind of input that you're putting, okay? All the other pre-produced things that we're using for better production, like machines or anything else, etc., raw materials, etc., right? So capitals, what you're putting in, will also wear out after a certain period of time. If I buy a machine, 10 years, 20 years, it will die. Okay, it will have to be replaced. Labor keeps on working, but labor is also perishable, right? A labor will die at one point. The human will die, maybe 50, 60, 100 years he'll live, but he'll die at one point and all his services will be gone with him. But the land is nothing like all these factors. Land will always remain. Okay, then it is immovable. Okay, it cannot be transported from one place to the another. It is fixed. Now this is the point I kind of got confused. I mean, like I started talking about when I was talking about supply is limited. Supply is also limited. Also land is fixed. What do we mean by this? Naturally, land where it is, it will remain there. It will not move from here to there. Other factors can move. Okay, if we are setting up a factory, the labor will move from town to the city to work in that factory, but land will not move from here to there. Okay, so yeah. So as I was telling you that land will not move. Now what usually happens, depending upon the land, other factors move. Okay, if there is something valuable, other factors will move from here to there. For example, if my raw materials are actually available at a cheaper price somewhere, I will set my organization over there. If I'm getting more skilled labor somewhere, maybe I will set my organization over there. It depends on that. But if land is there wherever, I will have to go to the land will never come to me. So one, it is immovable. That is what we mean by it being fixed, land being fixed. There's one more thing that we mean by fixation of land is that no matter how much you keep on advancing, the supply of the amount of the land will always remain constant, which I was trying to make the point earlier also, that the supply will always be limited, right guys? How? So whatever amount of land we have on earth is always going to be the same. It's not like today we have x kilometers or x kilometer squares amount of land, and tomorrow it's going to become 2 into x. It will always remain x. And the same thing is going to go with the cities, in particular with the towns, with the nation as well. Whatever land we have is fixed in amount also. Okay. Then what else? It varies in fertility. Of course it varies in fertility. We have read so much about different types of soils. We have read so much about different physical features of earth or our nation. Some places it's mountains, some places it's plains, some places plateaus, desert. So naturally plains are more fertile, but deserts are not at all fertile. It's going to be very, very difficult to cultivate there, do cultivation over there. So naturally, because of the different forms of land, the fertility varies. Okay. It differs in location, which is a subset. You can say it's a followed point of the previous. It's a follow up of the previous point itself. That it differs in location. Right, it does. And how it differs is not just in terms of their, fertility or forms of land. It differs in location. What we mean by this is that land in cities are scarce, okay, and has high and has high value. Okay, the land in the cities are less but are more valuable because it is less. Demand and supply opposite. It is more valuable. The land near the river is more fertile, so the location determines the value of land बच्चा, ठीक है. Lands in villages are not as valuable as lands in cities. Lands in mountains are not as fertile, hence are not as valuable as that of the plains. Okay, so these are the differences which is created in types of lands because of the location. Okay, then land has many uses. Cultivation can be done on it, factories can be built on it, it can be set up, the factories are set up on it. The transportation is actually based on the roads and the railways which are built upon the land. So it has multiple uses and multiple things that we construct on land. Okay, so these were the features or the characteristics of land. Now we're going to talk about productivity of land. The amount of production. What do I mean by productivity? It's basically how much production is being done. This particular thing of land also depends on multiple reasons, which we'll look at now. Now, if I try to describe productivity in terms of an equation, okay, we're even including maths over here. You might be thinking, ma'am, what is wrong? Why are you talking about maths and equations? But this is how it is, guys. In simple words, if I try to tell you, productivity is how much work, okay, how much production can be done by one unit. Simple, okay. One land unit will give how much production, how much work will it do for us is basically its productivity. If I go by technical definition, it means the capacity of the land, of any particular piece of land to produce the crop. And if I want to put it in an equation like maths or physics, it will be basically output, okay, the average output, the average amount of production that it does by per unit of land, okay, maybe say per hectare or per acre. Okay, that's basically the amount of production, the productivity of land. Again, simplifying it for you, it basically means how much production is done by one piece of land. Okay, now moving on, what are the factors which determines the productivity of land? What are the different things which influences its productivity? Natural factors. Naturally, I mean, what is the fertility, what type of land it is, what is the location, what are the basic chemical and biological factors. All of this will determine its productivity. A land in Rajasthan, which is basically a desert, let's say, and a land in Punjab, part of the northern plains. What do you think about its productivity? Naturally, it will vary a lot because plains are way fertile. It will have more production, but that of Rajasthan, the desert, will not. Correct? Then size of holding. Now, bacha, this land that we're talking about, on which the people are working, on which production is happening, will also matter a lot. If I have a small piece of land, naturally my production will be less, and the bigger the land is, the greater the production will be. Okay, so if you have high land, your productivity will be high, the productivity of the land will be high. If it is a smaller land, the productivity will be less. Okay, large production cannot be done on a smaller land. And the same thing goes that if there is a large scale production, then you can also implement more technology into it, which is not possible with smaller lands. This is a problem in India. Okay, in India we mostly have 80% of the people who do not have land above 2 hectares. They have very small pieces of land. That is why productivity becomes a little lower. Okay, human factors. Now, who works on lands? We just read that land is a passive factor, which means we need laborers to work on it. Now, if I am working on something, you can see the production, the quality of the output, the result will completely depend on my skills, on my knowledge. If I'm not good at something, the productivity will naturally reduce. The production will not be of that good quality. But if I'm very skilled, if I'm very good at it, I'm very knowledgeable, naturally it will increase the productivity, correct? For example, if I'm trying to draw, and this is a complete different example I'm giving to you. I am not good at drawing. If I draw an apple, I end up making a mango. So naturally, my production over there is going to be of bad quality. Okay, my skills is affecting here. But let's say I'm good at cooking and I go and make a cake, which is very delicious. and the kind of production that I have had now is of great taste, great quality. So it depends on the skill and labors of the human also, and that's why human factors is very important. Okay. Then of course improvement on land, which means what kind of inputs we are putting in the enhancement of land for better production. What kind of technology is being used, what kind of irrigation, technology in terms of irrigation, tube well, drainage, fencing, fertilizers, pesticides, all of these things, kind of things that you're putting in for the betterment of the quality of the land. Okay, so these things also matter. Then location of land, as I told you before, where the land is situated. Is it on the hills? Is it near the seaside? Is it in the desert? The location matters a lot. Not just that, more than that, in terms of location, what we mean is the land becomes more valuable. Now guys, location over here I spoke in geographical terms, which we have already covered. Now I'm going to talk in terms of economics. In terms of economics, location of land means how closer the land is to the market, okay, to the supply land. Now what do we mean by this is, if the market is very far away from the production land, it will naturally increase the cost. Why? Because then I have to figure out a way to provide my stuff from the production place to the supply end, and that will increase my amount of communication, transportation, additional expenses will be added. So location of land will also determine production and profit. Okay, then of course organization. Now what is organization? So this is basically the fourth factor of production that we are talking about. This basically means that organization will comprise of labor and capital. Okay, now what kind of both these things is organized in one part, you can say in one together by a person, okay, by an organization, which we also call as entrepreneur. Now how is he using his planning also matters in determining what kind of production will be there. I mean, if he's putting labor and capital in a better use, naturally the production will be of a better quality. Then ownership of land. What happens in general, this is a general tendency between owners and renters. Renters will kind of exploit the property. This happens with houses also. A person who owns the house and lives in a house will take care of the house in a better way, right? Will try to protect it, conserve it. However, people who have rented it or who have taken it on lease will not do that. And the same thing will happen with the ownership of land as well. People who take it on lease or who have just rented it do not really bother in maximizing the production. Neither do they bother in conserving the land or preserving the land, or taking care of it. They might exploit it. However, if the person is the owner of the land, that will not happen. Next is availability of capital, which means what kind of inputs we are putting for the improvisation, for the enhancement of the land. This is somewhat, so guys, a lot of points are related to each other. This is something we have already read before. So you can say a follow-up of the same point. The kind of inputs, the kind of seeds that I'm using, is it a high yielding variety? The kind of manures that I'm using, the kind of machines that I'm putting in, the kind of technology that I'm using, Sometimes if I use a very high advanced technology, it would cost me more. So the kind of capital that I'm putting in is also very important. Then proper use of land. So what does this mean? So we have to always determine the nature of the land. If the land is actually suitable for production of wheat, and I'm trying to, for no reason, forcefully produce rice over there, the produce will always be bad quality. It's like asking a fish to climb a tree. The fish will never be able to climb the tree and will think that it's stupid, right? But if you put it in the water, it will easily swim, and you might be thinking the fish will die on the tree, which is also true. Again, my point proven. If a land is fit for wheat, we should not try to put rice over it. Okay, so the nature of the land, the kind quality also matters, and that's how decision making should be done on what needs to be produced on it. Okay, bacha. Next is state health. Now the government, okay, the kind of policies or provisions that they are providing is also very important, especially in developing countries. Okay, especially in developed countries which are already developed. In those places, the state, the nation always the government provides some subsidized inputs. Okay, they help the farmers in developing, and they also give better facilities for irrigation, good transportation. A lot of things which is being provided by the government also determines the productivity. Okay, next is meaning of labor. So now we are moving to the second factor. We have now completed land. Now we are moving to meaning of labor, the second factor of production. So labor in general again is going to be slightly different from our economical and our our economics and literal meaning. So in terms of economics, labor is not just the hard work done by a human, which in general means literally is what we mean literally by labor. Okay, over here we mean both physical and mental inputs by a human being. Okay, everything that the human is trying to do to earn rewards. Now there's one more catch. So if you remember, I told you in the previous session that if a housewife works or if a mother works out of love, she's not receiving any reward. So the labor always has to produce some economical value. If not, then it is not counted as labor. It is just considered as work done, but not economically. Not in terms of economics, it will not be counted as labor. So the mind or the physical inputs by a human being in expectation of any reward and expectation of any generating any economical value is known as labor. Now I told you it could be physical or mental, both. Earlier what used to happen, we only used to count physical labor into consideration. We only used to take that into consideration. But now you have to understand that with the development of technology, labor or inputs by human is also done in terms of mind. For example, engineers, for example, what I am doing right now, I'm not really physically working, but I am working in expectation of a reward. What I'm really doing is I'm using my mental labor right now. I'm using my mind to generate reward for myself. Okay, now what are the characteristics of labor? What are its features? So labor is perishable. If you directly compare it with land, this is the point we have already discussed, that labor is something that will perish. Okay, now there are two factors to it. One, it means that if the work is not done by the human on that day, then labor is not counted for that, it is wasted. Similarly, if the person passes away, whatever services has been provided by that person also goes away with that person. So basically it is perishable, it's not permanent like land. It is the second point is it is an active factor opposite to that of land, which means that passive factors are which needs to be worked on, which the land was. But labor is something that works on something, right? Without labor, anything is impossible. All these factors are also dependent on this, right? If a land is there, we need somebody to work on it. Otherwise, all the other factors will not be able to achieve any output. Okay, guys. Third one is that labor cannot be separated from the laborer. What do we mean by this? The cultivation, the harvest, the production can be separated from land. Okay, even a company can be separated from the entrepreneur who started it. Okay, capital can be separated, but laborer, what he does, the labor, what he does is not possible to separate from the laborer. They go hand in hand. They have to be together. Okay. Next is labor sells his labor, not himself. Very, very important point. We always have to keep in mind that whenever we are hiring a labor, we have to keep in mind any kind of labor. Okay, any person who's going to work is only giving his services to you. He's not giving himself to you, which means we should always respect the people working for us. Then laborer is mobile. It's not fixed like land. People can move. Okay, land cannot move. Simple as that. Laborer differs in efficiency, correct. Similar to land, there are different, how land was different in terms of location, geographical features, physical features, fertility, and that would determine production. Similarly, laborers are also different in terms of efficiency. What do we mean by this? How skilled I am and how skilled you are, how knowledgeable I am and how knowledgeable you are will determine our efficiency. Now, considering that you're in 10th grade and I'm a teacher who's teaching you all of these things, maybe my knowledge is more than you. However, you might be more skilled, let's say, in a game which I am not. So your efficiency over there will be more in games. My efficiency will be more in teaching when it comes to the knowledge part. So the efficiency, the amount of production done will depend on the skill and the labor of the person, or the knowledge of the person, okay, of the labor. Then we will talk about the seventh point, which is it can improve its efficiency. So it's not fixed, guys, and that's the beautiful, like that's the beauty of labor. The efficiency is not fixed. Somewhere like how land is limited, its efficiency might be limited. That is a factor which is not, it's not a bondation with labor. If I'm not skilled in a game, which you are, I can always learn it from you and be skilled. Similarly, you're not as knowledgeable as me at this point. You may be, I'm just saying, let's say in this chapter, if you're not as knowledgeable as me in productive mechanism, but you will be by the end of this chapter. Both of us will be equally knowledgeable, correct? So your efficiency, what it is right now, will naturally increase. It's not limited. Then inelastic supply of labor, it means that similar to land, this bondation is over here also, that the supply of labor is limited. It's not elastic. What is the nature of elastic? It can be stretched. So inelastic means something which cannot be stretched. Okay, so labor cannot be stretched. Whatever number of labor we have right now will remain constant. Now you may be thinking, ma'am, these people are not ready to work today, but maybe 10 years from now these children will grow and they will be ready to work. We'll have more labor, which is exactly true, and that proves my point. In the given period of time, if I want to all of a sudden increase my labor, I cannot. I would need to spend at least 2 months, 3 months, few days, few years to equip the people with the skill or the knowledge, or maybe number of years to make them grow to an age where they can be helpful to me, they can be useful for me and increase the efficiency. Okay. Then is labor is both a means and an end. So it is the means which starts the production, and it is also the means which consumes it, right? Humans do the production and consumption for themselves. So this is what is meant by this. Okay. Next point is demand for labor is derived. Now laborers are demanded only when there is a demand for goods and services. So if there is no demand, then demand for labor will also decrease. So demand and supply over here goes hand in hand. Okay. Then is labor has bargaining power. What do we mean by this? So labors are not as valuable, guys. Not as valuable. They're not as respected in terms of economical value. Why? The amount of labor available is huge, okay, and the amount of opportunity is less. As a result of which, what happens? People do not respect the kind of work the laborers do. Okay, the humans do. Their work is not respected or compensated properly. As a result of which, it becomes bargainable. People would want to pay low wages for hard work done. That is very sad. That is the downside of this. Okay, with machines, with land, people pay whatever amount is required for them, but with humans, bargaining is done. And with this, we come to the end of this session. I hope I was able to explain to you the meaning and the characteristics of two very important factors of production, which is land and labor. I'll see you guys very soon. Bacha, if you have any doubt, please make sure to put it in the comment section so that I can pick it up from there and discuss it in the doubt and the mentee session. Now the most important part of the session, 1 mark question. Which among the following is given to the laborers as a reward? Rent, wage, interest or profit? Don't forget to put your responses in the comment box, not just in the live chat. Okay. And guys, at this moment, I would also want to announce this great news to you if you don't know already. We have started with our new channel of NCERT for 11th and 12th. How awesome is that? So make sure to inform your friends or your family members, whoever was looking out for that we've just got started with this chapter. It's going to be a lot of fun. There are going to be a lot of fun sessions over there, which is going to help all the students of 11th and 12th. And I will see you guys in the next session very soon. Make sure to hit the like button if this video helped you. Don't forget to subscribe the session, because very soon I'm going to come with the next session's video, and you need to get the notification as soon as possible, correct? So make sure you subscribe to the channel, and do tell me how did you like the session in the comment box along with your doubts, guys. Okay, till then, take care, stay home, stay safe, bye bye, have a great day ahead.